Hey folks, I'm attorney Roger P. Foley, and I wanted to talk about criminal history. Often, when you meet your attorney for the first time, when you're doing a consultation on a criminal case, most attorneys will ask you, what criminal history do you have? Now, there's a lot of reasons for it, but I think a good analogy is if you go to a doctor or a dentist and they're going to have to prescribe medication or put you under, right, with some sort of sedative. They ask you that because if you're taking a certain kind of medication, it could conflict and cause you harm. Well, an attorney's asking for the same reason. We don't want to harm you, and we don't want to waste time either, right? So when someone comes to my office, we do an intake form, and on the bottom of the intake form, it says, have you ever been arrested before? And if so, for what, when, and what was the result, kind of thing. Now, I do that on misdemeanors and felonies. I do that on sealings and expunging. I'll give you a couple of examples. One day I walk into court on a relatively simple misdemeanor where I applied for diversion. And the prosecutor gets, I don't know, he seems like he's aggravated with me, or he's kind of snippy. And I go, dude, what's going on? He says, are you kidding? And I'm like, am I kidding for what? Like, he's like, diversion. You're asking me for diversion? And I go, yeah, why would I be kidding about diversion? He's like, because your client went to prison for murder and he's got like 15 felony convictions on his record? Sorry, Billy, didn't know. Then I'm now on felony cases, right? When you get a plea offer, the state attorney will often send you a score sheet to show you whether or not your client scores prison or not, their prior history. So a lot of times, at least in my experience, this has happened on misdemeanor cases, because once you get the case, I mean, sometimes I've applied for diversion because someone didn't tell me the truth. I remember showing up one time to handle a VOP, and I did what's referred to as an in-court surrender. Now, I think this was in Broward County years ago. I file a motion for in-court surrender, and the judge says okay, and I go in, and I'm thinking, look, it's a felony, but it's a small issue. It's like a technical violation. I'd call the prosecutor, but it's Broward. They don't always call back. Trying to resolve it beforehand. Anyway, get into court, and the judge, there's a bunch of deputies. And I'm like, what the hell is good? Why is there so many deputies? And they take my client into custody. And I go, what the hell's going on? Judge, you said I could do an in-court surrender. Apparently, they believed that my client was a fugitive for the law and that he was a convicted murderer. Now, I asked the client, what's going on? He's like, it wasn't me. And the judge goes, Mr. Foley, he's been in prison for murder. He did 15 years on a murder case. And I talked to my client, he didn't. So I said, Judge, can we fingerprint him right now and get this squared away sooner than later? Because obviously he's going to stay in custody. Not the strongest argument, because he had a VOP on a felony, which you normally end up in custody for. But I had that case. Then I had a case where I was in a trial or a hearing of some type, and I don't remember if it was a felony or misdemeanor. It was a felony. I'd probably know it by the time of hearing, but sometimes they don't give you an NCIC. So all of a sudden they were calling a rebuttal witness. The state was calling a rebuttal witness, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? So I go sidebar with the judge. Judge, state, can you proffer what this rebuttal witness is going to say? And apparently my client was a member of a gang, a very serious gang. I don't want to mention colors, but was a suspect in several murder cases. There's some case law. Obviously, it didn't come in, because if it did, my client would have gotten crushed by the jury, right? They would have come back guilty. But it's important that if you have a criminal case and you meet with your attorney, that you explain any arrest, any withholds of adjudications, any diversion cases, any cases that have been expunged or sealed, because sometimes they're not. And it's important because it makes a determination on what your attorneys can do and can't do for you. And it also helps you save time. So let's say on an expungement, I have clients, I go, look, it's a non-refundable if you don't tell me the truth. And I always ask them, do you have any history? And I usually go through it. But I have had clients that have lied, and then all of a sudden I get something back from FDLE, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and says, sorry, your client's not eligible. They did jail time in Michigan and Wisconsin. They did prison time. And I'm going, why would you lie? And two reasons I'm making this video. One is very recently, I had a case where I had to negotiate. I took over a case after another attorney had the case. And that attorney, the offer was an adjudication, probation, and a small jail sentence. And I was trying to convince the prosecutor. The prosecutor said, hey, your client's got this other case. And I go, yeah, but he told me about it, but he's got a withhold of adjudication. So it's not, he didn't get diversion, because some counties you cannot get diversion twice. It's kind of part of the thing about getting diversion. If you had diversion before, you won't get it again. So I go through all this with the client, with the prosecutor. And then after we take the plea and pass, where the judge explains, hey, if you mess up diversion, then we go right to sentencing, and then it's just a matter of sentencing. You don't get to fight the case because, in effect, you're making an admission. And I hate plea and passes. I try to avoid them, but it's the only way I was going to be able to get this client help and get his case dismissed. So I'm out in the hallway afterwards, and I just say, just out of curiosity, that case that you told me about? Yeah. He goes, which one? And I go, what do you mean, which one? You, on my intake form, you said you had one case. We talked about it. Oh yeah, but I had that case twice, and then I had something else. I go, do you know what criminal history means? Well, I didn't know you meant that. Turns out that this client this is his 5th case. Now, it still went through, but it was just frustrating. I've had so many times where I start down a road or an avenue to help a person, and then they didn't tell me, oh, I didn't know that, that murder case I did prison on, or, oh, I didn't know that Leo, when I beat up 2 cops and, was on probation for 10 years. I didn't know you meant that. It's kind of silly. But it's been happening more than I would like. And I just figured, hey, if someone watches this, share your criminal history. It's with your attorney. Guess what? Everything you tell us, it stays with us. So anyway, I'm attorney Roger P. Foley. Have a great day.